Things just took an unfortunate turn for the Los Angeles Dodgers. We have some major updates on Dodgers closer Edwin Diaz and his recent blown save, but there might be more than meets the eye, at least according to Dave Roberts, as we get to the latest news and information on Diaz and the Dodgers ahead of the Mets series here today on Dodgers Digest. Welcome, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. I hope you're having a great day wherever you might be. We've got some interesting information to go over with Edwin Diaz after his blown save versus the Texas Rangers. Let's just start with Edwin Diaz and kind of go from there. Last year had a really good year. Obviously, that was what we wanted to see brought into Los Angeles. Was a dominant closer, a guy who you could put in and immediately say, okay, this game's over, we've won. Now, although the blown save did not cost the Dodgers, thanks to Max Muncy, it still is something of concern, especially when you continue to look at the more advanced analytics of what we saw from Edwin Diaz. Matty Lee kind of had an interesting point on this. Dodgers closer Edwin Diaz's fastball velocity is down 1.7 miles per hour this season, prompting manager Dave Roberts to rest and carefully monitor the closer's status as the team prioritizes long-term health. Now, thankfully, they didn't need Diaz for the rest of the series, but it is something to note as we now enter into a series against his former team, the New York Mets. There's a couple other things that you should look at. Despite blowing his first save Friday, Diaz significantly improved the Dodgers' bullpen ERA to a 3.38, which is down from a 4.27 last year. Now, this is, of course, early on, but this does prompt them to look because historically his fastball velo has been low, but it's a little bit lower than you'd probably like it to be. Before we continue on in today's show, I want to let you know that this video is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 sports picks app, and it's the best way for you to get in on the action. We've got some picks for the Dodgers versus the Mets later on in the show, but they don't just have MLB. They've got NHL, they've got NBA, they've got NFL picks coming up as well. All things considered, PrizePicks is my #1 choice and should be yours for adding some spice to your sports viewing experience. And again, you can click the link in the description and use code DIGEST, and you're going to play $5 and get $50 instantly. I play it every day. We've got some picks later on. Thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. Continuing on with Edwin Diaz, though, there is just some things you don't like. Now, again, like I said, this is nothing out of the ordinary because he has had lower velocities in the early part of the season. You want to go back to kind of 3 years prior. We can kind of take a look at the fastball velos in April. Now, again, he did get injured in 2023 with the WBC with that knee injury. That's where that kind of April velocity really took the hit. In 2022, it was at 98.1 in April and bumped up a full mile per hour to 99.1. Then in 2024, it was 96.9, almost, again, a whole tick up at 97.5. And then last year in 2025, it's 96.3 in April and bumped up to 97.2 by the time the end of the season came around. That being said, there's still obviously some concerns and just some notes on just how this can kind of be avoided and hopefully keep him in a healthy range and hopefully no more blown saves. This is something that I did find interesting. MLB.com's Sonja Chen had this to say on Diaz. For Diaz, it was only the 6th time in his career that he had he averaged 95.5 miles per hour or lower with his four-seamer in a game, minimum 5 pitches. 5 of those 6 occurrences came in March or April, which is part of why the Dodgers are not overly concerned with their closer's velocity. Now, keyword there, overly concerned, because Dave Roberts did address the media after the blown save and, of course, talked about the potential of Diaz kind of maybe taking a rest for a little bit. He said this: "I'm going to see how he feels in catch play and talk to trainers and pitching guys. See where we go and make a decision from there. I'm confident right now because everything I hear is he feels fine. For me, you hear it, you want to completely trust it, but you're also looking at the radar gun and making sure we're treading lightly and giving him the benefit of the doubt while also still watching." I think this is a very good way to go about this because ultimately we can look at the Dodgers and say, well, we want to keep him healthy for the entire season. And that's the biggest point. While also understanding you want to try and win these games earlier and obviously give yourself a pretty good lead ahead. Now, the good news is the Dodgers, and we have a pretty good plethora of guys to lean on, including Max Muncy, who ended up winning that game for us. But early season stats do not favor Edwin Diaz right now. 1-0 record. The win is something you don't want as a closer, and thanks to Max Muncy, he has one. In 6 games, though, he has 4 saves, 6 innings pitched, 10 Ks. By the way, the 4 saves were only on 5 opportunities, so of his 6 games, 5 were save appearances. He blew 1, obviously being the most recent one. The thing that concerns me is not the ERA, it's not the saves or the strikeouts or even the walks, it's the whip and combining the walks with the hits. 1.67 is way above his career average of 1.04. Even in smaller situations where it's maybe even the one game he came in that wasn't a save, he still was walking guys. He was getting runners on the base path. In fact, he allowed a run in that one game that was not a save appearance. So I really don't like that part of what we're seeing from Edwin Diaz personally. The blown save is what it is. The Rangers are a good team. Not too worried about that being a trend overall, especially given the warm air will continue to come. It'll get hotter and hotter, and it's just going to be a whole thing for him to kind of get back to where he was. I threw up the picture in the intro about him being in the WBC. That's also a part of this. That's a lot of emotional kind of games early on. Now trying to get yourself kind of back in rhythm in the MLB level, it's a different thing for sure. Looking at the baseball savant for Edwin Diaz, nothing insanely concerning on here as opposed to prior years. And something that I really want people to understand is the expected ERA is still at a 3.04. So while his ERA right now has ballooned to 6, that's not where even the expected point is supposed to be. It's supposed to be at about 3.04. The expected batting average is still at 0.190, so I'm not too worried. The fastball velo being in the 70th percentile is something you're worried about just because historically in his career it's been at least 80th percentile, if not closer to the 90th. The average exit velo again against them, though, is down or a little higher at 38th percentile, 89.7. Chase rate, though, is great. K percentage is great. Extension is there. Ultimately, it really just does come down to him kind of, I guess, getting back up and this being a trend over the past couple seasons of his career. I mentioned it was last year that he had that low mile an hour fastball, got up to 97 by the end of the season. Yeah, last year at a .87 whip. So that again, that's where I continue to push my concern to the fact that he's walking guys too, where he's getting a lot of traffic on the base pass. That's what I see and look at and say, that's not exactly what I want to see. But I do think this is a very good idea. Got to have 2 games of rest, and now we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens in his series against his past team, the New York Mets. Speaking of the Mets, I've got some prize picks for you for tonight's contest. I'm going to go more on Shohei Ohtani total bases because I always like to throw in my prize picks. Personally, it's just something fun to do and something fun to have Shohei in there. He bats first. You can immediately get the 1.5 total bases with a homer in the leadoff spot. Robleski had a pretty good outing against the Jays. I'm going to go more on the 4Ks. Had 5 last time. I'm going to go 4 this time. And Luis Robert Jr., what do you know? You put him on a good team and he actually plays well. He's been playing great with the Mets. I'm going to go more on his 1.5 hits, runs, and ribbies. He's also historically hit pitchers similar to Robleski very, very well. Again, you can check this out on PrizePicks for yourself and use code DIGEST with the link in the description to get $5 to get $50 when you play $5. As for what we can expect for this series, I think we're still going to be cautious with Edwin Diaz. I really, really do. I know this is obviously a big one because I think in a lot of people's books, this is a preview of the NLCS. At least it should be. The Mets have been, maybe not playing as well as they should have, but this is a preview of what we can expect in the NLCS. And so you want the Dodgers to come out and compete, and they've won really every series besides the Guardians one. I feel confident they can come in here and produce some very good baseball, play well, and fingers crossed that will be the way that it ends up. I am excited to see if Edwin Diaz goes out there, what his fastball velo is like, how it performs, because he still has 4 saves, guys. It's not like he's blowing every one because his fastball velo is down. That's not something that we're worried about, but I want to get back to where he was last year, and that starts with the whip. I mean, heck, you go to the kind of intertwined analytics of his stats from last season in 2025, and you can kind of see, had the 28 saves, that was the 11th best in the MLB, but you can go further and talk about the walks. 21 as opposed to 4 homers and then 12 earned runs. Already the earned runs are up from what it was last year. You talk about just the 3 that he's already given up. we're getting close. I mean, he's averaging here probably going to be closer to 30 runs given up this season, more than 12. But besides the point, there are stats here that you can see are not in line with what was going on in the early part of the season. That does not mean that he cannot get back to that spot, and I'm very excited to see what he can do, how the Dodgers pitching staff kind of helps him out, and kind of the training staff alongside it. So we'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, something to make sure that we don't lose track of, but I wouldn't be too concerned. I'm definitely unfortunate. I'm not excited about it, but it's something to keep an eye on. That's what we got for you, though, here today on the show. We do appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time. Peace out.